Seguimos en el Mobile World Congress 2014, haciendo más coberturas de vídeo, más paneles en inglés, y nos visita Oshi de la empresa OpenNet y Jennifer de la empresa CSG International, con quien vamos a estar hablando de la transformación del OSS y el BSS en los operadores móviles fijos, cable, etc. Voy a cambiar al inglés para hablar con ellos. Oshi, Jennifer, Oshi, welcome to Telesma.com. Thank you for being here. I know this is a busy show, probably tight schedule for you too.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. The idea of the panel today essentially is discussing OSS BSS transformation, not a new topic. I mean, we've been discussing transformation of the OSS and BSS for over a decade or even more since the telecom industry was born. Tell me, on your view, as brief as you can, what needs to be done? Where are we at with OSS BSS? Where are we going? So operators have lower OPEX and the user is happier. Jennifer, you want to start?
I think we're sort of in the second phase of transformation. The first phase was just recognizing that transformation needed to happen and moving from sort of the old technology, the old platforms, moving to open systems, virtualized sources, moving from a more postpaid to prepaid, moving to a real-time world. All of that sort of recognizing that needed to change was sort of first phase. Now it's happening, but it's all happening in different phases. We've seen in many different regions different levels of maturity in that. In South America in particular, we see quite a bit of acceptance and really rapid engagement there.
Okay. Oshi?
Yeah, I think what's happened is the systems are far more mature now, so things are productized. So I think from an operator's perspective, the investment is much more manageable in terms of their overall budgets, and so in terms of what they get for a single $1 million investment is quite dramatic. So what we've seen from our customers in South America and other regions is that, you know, an investment in BSS, OSS, they're getting a 7x return on that pretty quickly, you know, within 1 to 2 years. So I think that's the big change, and that the size of the deals to get into kind of next generation BSS, OSS is much smaller than it was 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, and actually we see a lot more adjunct approaches. For example, one implementation we have, we're keeping an existing legacy online charging system up and running. It can't handle the capacity. So we've put a system in place we call our offline charging solution, where we're keeping that, you know, real-time subscriber system in place for 50 million subs. It just couldn't handle the capacity. And many of our operators are generating, you know, traffic at 50% year over year. So they can't afford that massive, you know, transformation every few years. So they're starting to pick at certain areas to make it much more effective.
Now, you brought up two things that I think are critical. One is the real-time and this component, which is talked about, and also in South America where prepay is more prevalent than postpaid.
Absolutely.
So real-time was kind of implemented first. And how much real-time is hype and how much is a real need?
Oh, it's real.
It's real?
It's
really
totally real.
Time?
In the example I just gave you, the market is so competitive that you have to be real time. And the reason why the subscribers expect it. Imagine you're trying to use your device and you're waiting 3 seconds. That's too long. It's like, I demand it to be fast. Subscribers demand it to fast, and operators have to make it fast. It's absolutely the case that real time is here, and it's across multiple verticals. Telcos have to be enablers into that whole real time world. It is absolutely here.
Do you agree with?
Absolutely, and I think you know, data is the big driver. I think as things migrate away from traditional services, be it SMS and voice, towards data services, everything is real time, and you know, customers want that kind of dashboard to see, almost like a, you know, like they do in their car in terms of their fuel gauge, to see where they are in relation to their quota, and then in terms of when they hit their quota, they want to be notified by their operator in advance of that and given the option to upsell. So we've done that with some of our customers in the Middle East in terms of the real-time notifications and then this kind of intelligent upsell. So I think very much so. I think data drives it all, and then you have things like shared data, which effectively mean you need to strip out your whole BSS and put in one that can handle the ability, you know, to share with people who may not be necessarily associated with you all the time. So it's different from an account structure where, you know, you're all a family or you're all a business. You might say, I'll share with you for, you know, a couple of hours, a couple of days. Suddenly everything has to be real time to be able to take that balance and share it dynamically. So we see a lot of that. So.
Yeah, I agree, and that's all well and good as long as the systems can support it. If your systems can't support it, then it doesn't do any good.
Well, then it comes to the fact that many operators have legacy systems, as you were mentioning, that can handle capacity. And it seems that they resist to kind of throw those systems away and replace them. So what is the transition process for them to justify that they want to still be using old legacy systems?
Well, the compelling event is, can my systems even work? Do I have churn? Do I have loyalty issues? All of those things. And there becomes that sort of point of diminishing returns that happen, that you've just got to replace the stuff that you have. Okay. So the first place is often to look at the hardware and move to a virtualized or NFV environment, number one. Number two is, what can I do to make more efficient my processes? And three, if I can't do any of that stuff, then I've got to go out and find something better. But the big transformation does take a long time, because you want to squeeze out as much as you can with the legacy.
Especially in Latin America. Yeah.
Especially in Latin America. I mean, we see that in Brazil all the time. We have many operators that use our systems in Brazil, which is obviously a huge growth market, and they're constantly struggling with making sure that everything is working up to par and is not maximized, and there's enough headroom for growth.
Right. Now, the other topic that you brought up in your first response was NFV, and you commented on this already. How are those NFV SDN trends going to impact OSS and BSS systems? Some people say that networks are get simplified, and thus integration with OSS BSS is going to go down.
Yeah, well, I think BSS is going to be at the forefront of it. So I think charging and policy systems, which OpenNet does, they're kind of at the forefront of the NFV revolution. So we already have a customer in North America operating in a fully virtualized environment with over 100 million subs. I think you're going to see those were kind of, they're big country, rich country investments, but that's going to become more mainstream in the next 2-3 years, because I think what happens is that everything becomes more affordable. If suddenly your, a lot of your BSS is in one big kind of ecosystem where you can switch it on and switch it off in terms of scaling up and down your capacity, it becomes much easier to add new services, to take things down, to scale. So I think the benefits are huge once everything becomes more mature. And what we're seeing is, as I said, the bigger countries are investing in this. It's now for us, we see it in RFPs and RFQs as a must-have in terms of some of Western Europe and North America, and it's becoming more mainstream in terms of everybody is going to a virtualized environment, because there's kind of clear savings, and the savings are as much around the hardware as the operational saving and the headache.
So it's not just a capex.
It's getting services to market quickly, like ultimately weeks and days rather than months.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And at CSG, our systems have been virtualized for years. We were one of the first to offer virtualized mediation systems. We're processing trillions of transactions on a monthly basis, all through virtualized systems. So we were kind of NFV before it was even there and named and coined. So we completely buy into that and understand that. We're actually seeing it more in emerging markets, because they don't have the baggage and the infrastructure concerns that a lot of others have. So we're working on a whole new platform for an emerging provider, specifically all virtualized.
Completely virtualized already.
Completely virtualized, yeah. So we're really excited about that, because we think that it's absolutely the right way to go, number one. And number two, it gives them untold flexibility. Will it be simpler? For some things, yes. Some things, no. Managing a lot of virtualized systems can create its own set of issues that haven't been understood yet. Okay. Because you've got lots of different virtualized systems. You've got to have that sort of high-level oversight over all of those systems. And I think we don't know yet, as everything becomes virtualized, what does that really mean to infrastructure and changing the role of IT and managing that.
Now, we've seen the king of the show this year is Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook, and it seems that when Facebook or WhatsApp talk about their services, they usually talk about things that are going to be good for the user. Mm-hmm. And it seems that OSS BSS at some point was at the center of that experience that the user was going to have with the operators. But I'm not hearing that much this year at this show. Well, are you perceiving the same?
No, I think like a big driver for investments in BSS is around customer experience, and some of it is in terms of giving your customers something that differentiates you from your competition, but a lot of it is driven by kind of regulatory pressure around giving people transparency and giving them dashboards and real-time data in terms of where they are with their usage and their spend. So I think BSS is becoming more and more part of the customer experience. So we're working with a couple of kind of adjunct providers, which is around probes in the network. So when certain things happen in terms of congestion, that the experience is managed from the operator's perspective, so that different users get different levels of experience, which is programmed rather than them just seeing congestion. So I think, the user experience has become very much part of BSS, particularly in terms of real-time visibility to what's happening with people's data, their data usage, their data spend. I think it's front and foremost, and as I said, it's kind of a combination of operators wanting to do this and regulatory pressure to have to do it for roaming and other
but
things.
Are we seeing that debate at the show in terms of, because we're seeing what I'm saying, Facebook and WhatsApp discussing the user experience, and I'm not seeing perhaps that much discussion from the operator's perspective saying, okay, we need to upgrade OSS, BSS.
Well, they've been doing it actually. They've been actually upgrading for a long time. So I think the conversation's actually been had before.
Okay.
And I think right now what you're seeing is it's actually it's in place. It's sort of matured over the time.
Okay.
We're seeing sort of different segments, excuse me, within the sectors spend a lot more time on improving their overall customer experience. One of the underserved aspects have been like enterprise customers who are driving really all the revenue for operators now. It's not the retail channel, they're down into single-digit ARPUs. Yeah. It's the enterprise channel, and they want a completely different user experience. They expect more, they demand more from services, they demand more from the infrastructure, from the operator, and there's a lot now moving from retail into enterprise. You're going to hear more about enterprise customer service, the enterprise loyalty streams. So I think it might be a little quiet now because stuff's in place right now from a retail perspective. Just wait for the enterprises to sort of make their voice heard. Oh yeah, absolutely, this year.
Okay, finally, integration. Final question to summarize. Integration is one of the components with OSS BSS that is always, when you read the press or the specialized press, integration issues are always there. And we've seen initiatives like Nokia, Siemens Networks, Huawei and Ericsson launching the OSS II. How do you see this kind of maneuvering in the market? What needs to be changed? Is really a need for something like this, or integration? How are you going to handle integration from now on to make sure operators are happier with that process?
Do you want to take that first?
Yeah, sure.
So that's
sure.
a difficult one, I guess.
No problem.
No
problem. Well, I think we're an independent vendor, so often we sit between big network equipment manufacturers and then large-scale vendors on the billing side. So I think what our customers look for is flexibility. So they have big network deals and big deals with kind of mainstream billing vendors, and they want the flexibility from a nimble operator that can allow them to take services to market quickly. So integration is a big part of that. So I think it's whether you go best of suite or you go best of breed, and we're a best of breed vendor, and we think there's a lot more growth in that, and I think the vendors, the operators don't like being locked in, so they don't like from one of the big vendors the idea that they have to buy all their services from them. They feel they don't get the flexibility and the value for money, and that's why they often overlay a kind of an independent vendor like ourselves, so they can say, okay, we're going to do the monetization of our data services through these guys. And I think that. So
basically, the vendors are increasing the blocking in.
They're being driven by their customers to be more open.
Okay, more open. Okay.
And I think, but there's a limit to that. So I think you still need a kind of a best of breed provider to kind of incentivize the big guys to kind of be more open and to do more with their services.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of that. From a CSG perspective, integration is always going to be a requirement. We offer so many different services from, across cable markets, utilities markets. We've now entered the cybersecurity market. The level of integration is absolutely required from a standards-based perspective, but it's never going to go away. There's always going to be a level of complexity, and everyone's going to kind of fight for their space. But operators know, they're going to go to the vendors that give them the most for their money, the ones that are easiest to work with, that are more reasonable to work with, and are always looking to optimize and reduce the cost of that integration. Okay. So they're going to expect investment in integration technologies and investment in the people to be much more effective in that manner. So integration is always going to be first and foremost in everybody's mind.
Okay, excellent. Well, Jennifer, Oshi, thank you so much for being here. Have a good show, and see you next year.
Very good. Yes, thanks to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.